Hi Facebook, thanks for joining us again on another Facebook Live. I'm Talia Varga and I'm from the Mail Online in London, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. As the Queen turns 90 this week, we're joined by the former royal chef, Darren McGrady. Welcome Darren, thanks so much for talking to us today.
My pleasure.
So, let's start by talking about what it was like to actually cook for the Queen.
Cooking for the Queen was amazing. I spent 11 years in the royal kitchens as one of the Queen's chefs, and to be able to say you're there cooking for kings, queens and presidents, but at the same time, just do a private dinner party just for the Queen and Prince Philip, and have the most amazing china and served in the most incredible rooms at Buckingham Palace. You couldn't wish for better as a chef.
Of course, and as we're talking to Darren McGrady, you can also head over to the mailonline.co.uk where we've got the full article with Darren, and you can also like, comment and share on Facebook. Get your comments down below and we'll answer a few a bit later. Darren, mentioned in the article in this headline is that she wasn't a massive fan of garlic. She found it quite antisocial. How did that work?
Well, I think the Queen's from a Victorian era, and in those days, people didn't eat garlic because it was antisocial. The next day you were still breathing garlic, and of course she's meeting all those, different kings, queens, presidents, and she doesn't want to breathe garlic on them. And I think the same reason for, too many onions too. So for Her Majesty, she didn't have lots of garlic. Now Prince Philip, he loved it, and you could slather a fillet of beef in garlic for him. He loved that.
Of course. My grandmother's not a fan of garlic either, so it's all sort of coming into those ages. So, what did you use instead then? Because, garlic's quite a key ingredient in food.
Yeah, it is, but, there are lots of other ingredients too. Lots of, you can use lots of herbs in there. So, lots of tarragon. We use tarragon a lot, and coriander, and just good seasoning, good spices.
Sure. How did that work with Prince Philip? Was he a fan of garlic? Did you have to sneak a few in when she'd popped out the house?
It really was like that. If he was having a dinner party on his own, then yeah, we could use garlic, and we could use lots of onions. We could use lots of spices. We could do, heavy curries and things like that. But when he was with the Queen took precedent, and so there was no garlic on the menu at all.
Now, Darren, I am a big fan of hot sauce. It's put on everything, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Was there sort of any table sauces that made a regular appearance? Maybe some ketchup, brown sauce?
We didn't do any sauces like that on the table. There was no ketchup or anything like that. The only time that changed was when I moved across to Princess Diana and looked after her, Prince William and Prince Harry. Then William and Harry, they love ketchup. Ketchup on everything, even the cereals. No, I'm joking.
Now, if you've just joined us on Facebook Live, I'm Talia Varga and I'm from the Mail Online office in London. We're here today talking to the former royal chef, Darren McGrady, about this story on the dailymail.co.uk website, looking into all the secrets of Buckingham Palace and what it was like to work in that kitchen for 11 years. Now, I've asked you to get involved, like, share, comment on the video down below. Riyadh, I think we've got a few questions coming in.
We do indeed. Bobby wants to know, although you make these fine dishes, can you put together a simple egg roll?
Yes, of course. In fact, that's what we used to do for the chefs in the kitchen. We weren't allowed to eat all of that lavish foie gras and everything else. No, seriously. The Queen, no one can live every day on foie gras and caviar and a poached salmon with a champagne mousse and a lobster sauce. It's too rich. You can't do that. Imagine going on holiday and eating all that rich food for 2 weeks. You can't wait to get back for some simple food. And it's the same with the Queen. When she has a banquet, then she's on those rich foods. But when she's on her own or she's with Prince Philip, then it's more simple foods, and she'd often have sort of sandwiches and things like that for afternoon tea.
Another question in from Shruti from India, but he wants to know, did you ever cook Indian food in Buckingham Palace?
I never did cook Indian food. Now, we did have some of the visiting kings and queens coming in for state banquets, and some of them actually brought their own chefs with them, and some of them actually, the visiting monarch wouldn't switch to the UK time and adjust. So they had their own chefs preparing goat meat curries in the royal pastry kitchen at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. So when we came in at 7, the whole pastry kitchen absolutely smelled of curry. But they were always extra, and the chefs were digging in at 7 in the morning, eating this amazing goat meat curry.
Okay, so Darren, talking of Indian food right there, did the Queen ever eat takeaways? Was there sort of a Friday night special of a Chinese, or...?
I don't remember in the 11 years I was there, the Queen ever getting pizza delivered or anything like that. So, and if she did, she kept it a secret from the chefs.
She didn't have Domino's on speed dial then?
I don't believe so, but like I said, it may be a secret from the chefs. You know what, Prince Andrew, probably more like it when I was there. He was, obviously he was in the Falklands when I was there, and so when he came back, he'd want food at sort of 11 o'clock at night. So his sort of fast food was like a BLT, and we'd have to go down the kitchens at 11 and prepare that for him.
Wonderful. So don't forget, you can get involved with this conversation by commenting down below with your questions. We're going to be here on Facebook Live throughout the next half an hour, and you can also go over to thedailymail.co.uk to view the story. Darren, let's talk breakfast. Was it sort of continental pastries or a little cheeky box of shreddies?
It was a cheeky box for the Queen. She's got a cheeky box of a Tupperware container of cereals in her sitting room. So for her, a special cake in the morning, obviously with milk, and occasionally a boiled egg, and then some tea. But never a big breakfast for the Queen. And then, of course, when we were at Balmoral, at Sandringham, and sort of all the men were going out sort of hunting and shooting, they would all have sort of a full cooked breakfast, and they would have everything from bacon, eggs, sausage, to kidneys, and all of the offal and everything too.
Wonderful. So I'm Talia Varga, and I'm here in the London offices of the Mail Online with the former royal chef, Darren McGrady. Darren, you mentioned there that she was a fan of Tupperware. Was that sort of an everyday occurrence?
It's pretty strange. When they were at Balmoral Castle, they'd go out to the hills. Of course, Balmoral, 50,000 acre estate in the Scottish Highlands. And so they'd go off to Balmoral, they'd go off onto the estate, and they'd have picnics. And all the food would be packed in Tupperware containers. And you think, why? The Queen of England, and she's eating food in Tupperware containers. But then sort of coming back to London, she'd be eating food off Meissen china from the early 1800s, hand-painted Meissen china. So it really was a mixture of both.
Wow. And so you mentioned that she was a big fan of Special K. How often did she order breakfast in bed?
Well, I don't know if she had breakfast in bed. I was a chef in the kitchen, but I think, and I'm told, that the Queen used to get up, have breakfast, listen to Terry Wogan in the morning, and he was one of her favourites, and then eat breakfast.
That's amazing. So, like I said, we're here with the former royal chef, Darren McGrady, doing a Facebook Live from the Mail Online offices in London. Riyadh, I believe some more questions are coming in.
Yeah, more questions down below the live stream. Suzanne wants to know, what was the Queen's favourite dish? We're talking her comfort food dish and the one that she loved when she was going all out. What were those two favourites?
Two favourites. As I said in the article, the Queen's a chocoholic, and anything we put on the menu that had chocolate in always used to get passed. The Queen would always approve that. So things like the chocolate perfection pie recipe, lots of ingredients, but it really is worth making. So please try that one at home. And then when she sort of entertained, dishes like the Gaelic steaks, which is sort of, fillet steaks with a whiskey mushroom cream sauce. Sometimes it would sort of be beef, and other times it'd be venison from the estate. And I think that's what she enjoyed most, eating any of the pheasant, partridge, venison off the royal estates. And any berries, she loved ice cream, so any of the berries from Balmoral, or any of the apples from Sandringham, she really did like eating food from her estates.
We know quite how big Buckingham Palace is, but Andy wants to know, did you need a map to find the banquet hall from the kitchen?
Well, the banquet hall is pretty much upstairs from the kitchen, so that was the easiest to find. But, Buckingham Palace has got 776 rooms, and I certainly got lost many, many, many times. Just trying to go down to find the electrician because I needed a plug changing or something like that, and we weren't allowed to do it in case we set the whole palace on fire. So I got lost many, many times, trying to find the linen room when I wanted napkins and things. It is a huge place.
Great question there, Andy. So talking of banquet halls, what was it like to prepare for state banquets?
State banquets were run on military precision, and we do so many, 2, 3 a year, and over the years, that's quite a lot of banquets. And so everything was timed, and all of the dishes were tested ahead of time. The Foreign Office were involved and connected with the visiting king or queen or president to make sure that we were not doing any foods that weren't allowed by religion or any personal likes, dislikes. And then Her Majesty would approve a menu, and once she'd approve the menu, we'd start testing that. We'd start contacting suppliers and getting all the food in to make sure it was the best quality. And then, come the day of the banquet, we'd have all 20 chefs. The Queen has 20 chefs in the kitchen, and we'd have all 20 chefs working a full 16, 17-hour day preparing a banquet. And it was so much fun. The chefs were having fun in the kitchen, but we knew we were there to make sure everything was perfect for this banquet. We were just one piece of that jigsaw.
So don't forget that you can like, share and comment on this story down below. I'm here with the former royal chef, Darren McGrady. We're talking all the inside gossip from the Buckingham Palace kitchen. Let's take things right back to state banquets. How did you choose the menu? So was there sort of a menu book where you prepared all the recipes from?
For a state banquet, as I said, the Queen would actually choose from 4 different menus, menu A, B, C or D. And that would be put together by the chefs in the kitchen who would sort of look at local produce, look at any ingredients that we had from, as I say, the estate, whether it was apples from Sandringham, whether it was the berries from Balmoral, whether it was just some of the jams we wanted to use that we made while we were in Balmoral, some of the incredible Victoria plums that we had from Balmoral too. And so we'd plan a menu, and then the Queen would choose each one. Now, on a daily basis, in London, when the Queen's on her own, we'd send up a red leather-bound book, and it would have 3 days' meals in there so that we got time to get the food in. And then she would put a line through the dishes that she didn't like, and then that would leave the ones that she did. Then if she was out for dinner, she'd just put a whole line through the menu, so we knew she was out for dinner. And the chefs had the night off.
And would you only choose the Queen's favourite recipes then? I mean, were there some foods off limits?
Some foods were off limits. We knew the ones she didn't like. The ones that, we'd certainly put on dishes that she liked. Usually, with menus, it's like us, think about, us at home. We tend to eat the same sort of foods every week or every month, even though we sort of rotate. And so we put sort of those same ones on. Now, if we had a new menu, a new recipe, then we'd have to send the whole recipe up in the menu book so the Queen could look through it and say, I'll have that for dinner, or save this for when we do a dinner party at Sandringham or at Windsor Castle, so she could choose. So when we put new dishes on, we'd always put one of her favourites on too, in case she didn't like the new dish.
Okay, and you mentioned that she really likes sort of eating from her own estate. Was it like Animal Farm?
With Napoleon and Snowball. No, not really. No, I don't think we had any of the pigs on the estate. Well, maybe in the kitchen. We just had some amazing produce. At Balmoral Castle, when the Queen was there for 8 weeks, that was when we were pretty much self-sufficient. We got deer on the estate, we got beautiful fruit and vegetables, and we were just so lucky to be able to go down to the gardens and pick all our own ingredients.
Okay, great. So I'm joined by the former royal chef, Darren McGrady, and we're talking through this story on the dailymail.co.uk. We're looking in sort of the inside secrets of Buckingham Palace kitchen and really getting to know what the Queen was like to cook for. So, we've been asking for your questions over on Facebook Live. Riyadh, are there some more coming in?
Yeah, Zul wants to know what happens in Buckingham Palace to leftovers. Do you guys eat them? Where do they go?
Well, when we got a state banquet, a state banquet, we'd always do 17 services of 10. Because it was butler served, so it was always offered, so people would help themselves. So there'd always be an extra service, just in case anyone was sort of really hungry or really loved the food and they took extra portions. Now, the spare service actually came back to the kitchen then, and if we really, really enjoyed it, then that went to the chef's dining room. So the chefs got to eat really, really well.
Okay, I've got another question in here from Rebecca. She says, Diana was known for her health and fitness and being all round very healthy. What was her typical diet?
Yeah, well, I spent 11 years with the Queen and then 4 years with Princess Diana right up until the day of the car accident, and sort of watched William and Harry grow up. When I was with the Queen, I'd get to see Princess Diana at Sandringham, at Windsor, at Balmoral, and sort of all the royal holidays really. And I got to sort of form I became a familiar face in the kitchen to the princess. And so when her and Prince Charles separated, and she needed a chef, I moved across to Kensington and took care of her. And one of the things she said to me was, Darren, you take care of all the fats, and I'll take care of the carbs at the gym. So I had to sort of rewrite recipes. One of her favourite dishes was a tomato mousse. And in my book, Eating Royally, I wrote a book called Eating Royally, donated all of the advance and royalties to Princess Diana's charity. And in the book, you'll see I did a tomato mousse that we served at Windsor Castle that's got mayonnaise, sour cream, heavy cream in there, double cream. And she said, make me a fat-free version of it. So that's what I had to do. So it was making the fat-free version of it. And then I remember one time, we had Oprah Winfrey come for lunch, and she said, Diana, how do you stay so slim eating rich food like this? When in fact, Oprah was on the full-fat version, and Princess Diana was on the fat-free version. But for the most part, the princess was healthy eating. So stuffed vegetables, stuffed bell peppers, stuffed red peppers, she loved those. Chicken dishes. She didn't really eat red meat. Wouldn't eat beef much at all. If she got sort of men coming for lunch or something, and I remember we had Clint Eastwood there once for lunch, and she said, let's do lamb. And of course, when the boys were home, William and Harry, then they would eat one sort of dish, something like the cottage pie, and then she'd have a grilled chicken salad or something.
Okay, if you've just joined us on Facebook Live, I'm Talia Varga and I'm from the Mail Online office in London. I'm joined by the former royal chef, Darren McGrady. We're talking about this story here on thedailymail.co.uk, all about Buckingham Palace, the inside secrets and goss from the kitchen. You can also go onto the Daily Mail today and look at this recently revealed photograph of the royal family. Darren, we were just speaking there about Prince William growing up. Excuse me. We were just talking about him growing up there, and did you have much dealings with his day-to-day menu and also Prince Harry?
We did. When I was at the palace, obviously, they were babies then, and so Barbara Barnes was nanny, and we'd actually send menus up so if we were at Windsor Castle and sort of all the royal family were coming together for Christmas, we'd send menus up to the nursery, and the nanny then would choose what dishes and things they wanted, so we cooked for them at an early age, and it was comfort foods. Like I said, things like the cottage pie, things like banana flan. They loved sort of comfort foods like that, like normal children. I mean, they were royal princes, but they still had children's palates, and so as they got older, they stayed in sort of the teen foods. And so for, like William and Harry, when I was cooking for the princess, I mean, they love pizza. They love loaded potato skins, with mozzarella and bacon. They love those sort of, foods and dishes.
Did they ever have a fish finger sandwich?
I don't know if they had fish finger sandwiches. I wasn't in the dining room. They did have fish fingers and they did have bread. Now you've got me thinking.
And were they quite fussy eaters then, if you were sort of having to do a separate menu for them? Did you do sort of separate menus for Diana and then the children?
No, not really fussy eaters, but of course, as I said, the boys were children, and although royal princes, they had children's palates, and so Princess Diana, she, if we were doing sort of, chicken a la king, she didn't want that sort of rich cream sauce, whereas Princess Diana would have some sort of healthy eating, and we used to actually trick the boys. William and Harry loved things like roast chicken and roast potatoes, roast crunchy potatoes that when you bit into them, all that oil ran down your chin because they were so crunchy on the outside and fluffy on the inside. Amazing. But of course the princess couldn't eat those, so for the princess, when we were doing roast chicken, what I'd do is I'd actually take one of the chicken breasts and take the skin off and put it at one end of the bowl, and then she could help herself from there. And then her potatoes, I'd actually toss them in, parboil them, and then toss them in egg white and paprika, and then bake them. So, of course, it was just carbs, as she said, cut out the fat. So she was having vegetables, which were good. She was having chicken, which was just pretty much poached, no skin, protein. And then her potatoes had got no fat in them. And the boys thought she was eating the same food as her.
Wow, okay. So thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live. I'm Talia Varga, and I'm from the Mail Online office in London. I'm joined by the former royal chef, Darren McGrady, and I've been asking you to get involved in the conversation by liking and sharing this video and popping questions down below in the comment box. Riyadh, are there a few more coming in?
There are. Lania wants to know, is there still a royal taster?
I don't know that there ever was a royal taster. Maybe sort of back in the early days. But we never had a royal taster at the palace. I think when we were doing food for the Queen, if we were doing a salad and plating a salad, we would plate 150 salads. And then the Queen's page would pick one of those salads. So we didn't know which one the Queen was getting. And that, I guess, helped stop anyone from sort of putting anything on there that they wanted to. But at the same time, it meant that we had to make sure everyone was perfect because we didn't know which salad the Queen was getting.
Another question in here from Jade. Does she ever cook? That's the Queen she's talking about.
I don't believe the Queen does cook. Prince Philip likes to cook, and as I said, when they go out to Balmoral or Sandringham, when they go sort of cooking there, They cook quite a lot. They like to cook for themselves, but the Queen doesn't. But the Queen still mucks in, and she actually washes dishes. So she'll rinse the plates and help load them into the barbecue trailers, ready for going back to the house to actually be washed properly.
And another question from Zul. He's sent in some great ones today. He says, do guests to royal banquets, do they have to go through a prior course or like a scheme where they learn the etiquette around the Queen so that they don't mess up on the night?
Well, I think no, they don't go through a course or training or anything like that. But I think that the people that are going there for the first time, the people that are unsure of the etiquette and everything, they seem to be sat further down the table and further away from the Queen. And the ones that are sort of sat next to Her Majesty and the royal guests, they've already sort of been through some sort of training, I guess. A lot of them are military, and they sort of know, exactly what to do. But even so, it doesn't always work that way. One of the courses at a state banquet is a dessert course, which is when they have fresh fruit. And of course, along with the fresh fruit, they've got finger bowls where they can dip their fingers in and actually wash their fingers because they've been picking up pieces of fruit. And we've even had one instance where one of the guests actually picked up that bowl and drank it. He thought it was soup, I guess, pretty thin soup.
Okay, great. So if you're just joining us on Facebook Live, I'm Talia Varga and I'm from the Mail Online office in London. We're here with the former royal chef, Darren McGrady, who runs eatingroyally.com. He also cooked for the Queen for 11 years and then moved over to Kensington Palace to cook for Princess Diana and Prince William and Harry. We're here talking today about this story on thedailymail.co.uk, looking all inside at the Buckingham Palace kitchens and all the little nitty-gritty secrets. So let's just go through this article, Darren, because there's some beautiful photographs looking through the years of your time at Buckingham Palace.
Thank you.
So if we'd like to have a look through a few of these, very nice. So we've got one here, Darren. It's of a cake, and so we're just talking about people being tasked for these big diplomatic receptions for sort of whipping up canapes and appetizers for 2,000 to 300 people in one night. What was it like creating these big, huge cakes and desserts?
Well, that's cheating, that big cake one. That cake was actually made outside the palace. That's the wedding cake for Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. And that's me just sneaking in there and doing a selfie. I'm not sure it's a selfie, but getting a picture standing next to that cake. So unfortunately we didn't make that one, but making all the sort of canopies and things for it was, a huge task, and we'd start several days before making those. You think something like a diplomatic reception at Buckingham Palace, we could have 3, 5, 10,000 canopies to make, and that's a lot, and everyone had to be perfect. So you think little raspberry tartlets, we'd have 3 raspberries on there, and everyone painted with raspberry sauce. So it's a lot of work. We weren't too keen on the canopies and those receptions. It's sort of more like being in a factory.
If you'd like to join in the conversation, you can like, share or comment on this video just down below. Leave us some comments and we'll come back to them in a little bit. Darren, we're just looking through some more photographs in this beautiful article. So let's go back to the state banquets. Was there anyone you had to cook for that you were just absolutely starstruck and it was just sort of amazing when you found out that they were going to be attending that evening?
One of my favourites was Margaret Thatcher, and I love cooking for her, and I actually got to cook for her meter when she came to Dallas, so I've got a signed photograph on my wall from her. I used to slice lemons for a drinks tray when she came to have an audience with the Queen as Prime Minister once a week, and I never got to see her or meet her. And then I came to Dallas and I was cooking here, and somebody said, we've got Margaret Thatcher coming for dinner. And I said, oh yes, I want to meet her. So I think she was probably one of the people that I enjoyed cooking for. But over those 11 years, I mean, there were hundreds of different celebrities and kings and queens, and I got to see some incredible people, cook for some incredible people. So I don't know if I had too many favourites.
And did Margaret Thatcher have any special requests? I'm guessing she wasn't eating out the Tupperware.
No Tupperware. It was all the finery for Margaret Thatcher. It was all the silver and everything else. But no, she was easy to cook for. And
is it true that the state banquet menus would be written in French? Did I hear that earlier?
All the menus were written in French. Even on the Queen's sort of day-to-day menus, if the Queen had got the family over for lunch at Windsor, all the menus are written in French. Always have been, and the Queen's fluent in French. The only time they're not written in French is when the entree, the main course, is English. So something like a Lancashire hot pot that maybe we put on for a Sunday lunch or something like that. When that's in English, then the whole menu is written in English. There's no sort of mixture of French and English.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live. I'm Talia Varga from the Mail Online office in London, and we're here talking to the former royal chef, Darren McGrady. We're looking about all the sort of inside secrets of the Buckingham Palace kitchen, and we've been asking you to get involved in the conversation by liking and sharing this video, and also commenting on questions below. Riyadh, have we got a few more coming in?
Brendan wants to know, did any royal chef, ever poison a royal by accident? Or on purpose?
I don't remember reading about it in the Daily Mail, so I don't think any of the royals were poisoned. Not that I know of, no. All of the chefs, in fact, all of the staff, I think, love the royal family. I mean, there were 1 or 2 that we weren't too keen on sometimes. But for the most part, I mean, we absolutely adored the Queen and, what she's done over the years. And so we wanted to do whatever we could just to help her day become easier. And so, there was never any sort of, bad intent or anything like that.
Larry wants to know, who out of the royal family was first to get drunk at the dinner table?
to get drunk at the dinner table.
Or tipsy.
Okay, I'm going to get out of this one by saying I was in the kitchen, so I didn't sit at the table.
Another one from Brandon says, have they ever ordered takeaway into the palace?
Like I said, I think I don't believe they ordered takeaway, but if they did, it'd be something we didn't know about in the kitchens. We never got sort of leftover pizza or anything like that sent down to the kitchen. But, you know, for the most part, I mean, they had sort of fruit in their rooms, they had sort of chocolates and things in their rooms. The Queen adored, like I said, the Queen's a chocoholic. She loved Bendix bitter mints, those beautiful dark chocolate mints. And so she just sort of nibble on those. We'd never really get calls at sort of 2 a.m. saying, hey, I need a sandwich. So, you know what, maybe they did order pizza.
And so, Darren, we've spoken about the state banquets, let's just move on to the garden parties. I'm Talia Varga from the Mail Online office in London, and we just want to know more, how did you prepare for the garden parties?
Well, the garden parties were for 6,000 people each one, and we prepare the food for the royalty tent. So the Queen, she'd have to get through 6,000 people in like a maze and shake hands with so many people before she actually got to have a cup of tea and some chocolate cake or something like that in the royal tea tent. Garden parties are always fun, and not just preparing them, but the staff were lucky, they get an invite there too. So I went to many garden parties, and it's a huge back lawn at Buckingham Palace, and to be able to go out into the garden and have scones and clotted cream and royal chocolate cake and ice cream, and then get to see the Queen and the royal family, we really enjoyed those.
You must have some very funny stories then from going to several of these garden parties. Was there sort of any year that really stood out for you?
No, I don't think so. They're all pretty much the same. The gates would open at 3 and everyone would come through into the quadrangle, into the gardens, and then everyone would make a beeline for the food tents and eat sort of loads and loads and loads of sandwiches, and then chocolate cakes and all of the pastries and iced coffee and strawberries and cream, and then jump in line and get a prime position, hoping to meet the Queen.
And gluten-free, dairy-free, all the allergies are very trendy at the moment. How do you deal with them when it comes to a pastry party with breads, cakes, sort of the full gluten lot?
We didn't have a gluten lot when, way back then. These allergies and things just weren't around. I mean, people were, those that wanted to were healthy eating. Back when I was cooking for the Queen, even organic food was unheard of, really. Prince Charles used to come to Sandringham, and he'd bring a hamper of organic food. I mean, he was into organic food before it became organic. And so gluten-free food and all of that, we never had anything like that in those days.
Great. I'm Talia Varga from the Mail Online in London, and we're here celebrating the Queen turning 90 this week by looking behind the scenes at the Buckingham Palace kitchen and all the different events, state banquets, garden parties. If you'd like to join in with this conversation, you can comment down below. Send us in your questions and maybe any thoughts that you've got. You can also like and share this video. Have we got any more questions coming in, Riyadh?
Mary wants to know, did any of the royal mums ever get food cravings during pregnancy?
I don't remember them doing so, no. Certainly not from food size. Maybe it was something, snack side or something like that. I don't remember, with Princess Diana, that she had any sort of food cravings. Maybe they did. If they did, we didn't know about them in the kitchen.
Okay. And Joanna asks, did you guys feed the royal pets? Who was in charge of that?
You know what we did? The Queen's corgis had their own menu. Can you believe that?
No.
They did, and we'd have the menu on the wall in the larder, and it would say Tuesday, January the 1st, chicken. Tuesday, January the 2nd, beef. And then it was different food each day. So it was chicken, it was beef, it was lamb, and it was rabbit. And so every day we prepare the food. So all the food had to be chopped in what we call a brunoise. Brunoise is like a fine dice. So that's when it's cooked in tiny, tiny pieces. And the reason we had to chop it so small is because we weren't allowed to put any bones in there. So when it was rabbit, then of course we couldn't put. We had to make sure there were no bones in there. The last thing we wanted were the dogs choking. So we'd do all the food, we'd put it in one big container, and then the Queen's footman would come down to the kitchen, and he'd take the big bowl of food, take it upstairs, put it into containers, and then either he or the Queen would actually feed the dogs.
And Darren, you've got to tell me, did they ever eat at the table with the Queen?
I'm going to get out of this one too by saying I was in the kitchen and I never saw them.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live. I'm here with the former royal chef Darren McGrady, talking all things Buckingham Palace, behind the scenes in that kitchen. Darren, you went on all the tours with the Queen, didn't you? And also to Windsor Castle and Balmoral. Were the cooking situations different there? Were there any sort of special requests for when she was on holiday?
Yeah, we used to travel. I mean, we joked that we lived out of a suitcase. We'd be at Sandringham, we'd be at Windsor, we'd be at Balmoral, we'd be at Holyrood Palace, and of course on the Royal Yacht Britannia then too. So wherever Britannia was in the world, we'd fly out and do banquets and things there, and also other countries too. Now, Sandringham, Windsor, Balmoral, we'd actually load up all our own cookware, pots and pans and everything, and take them with us. To the different houses, and then have to unpack them and repack them. But cooking in those kitchens was fun. Windsor Castle was huge. We didn't like cooking there because the kitchen, because it was the original kitchen before the fire, the refrigerator was miles away from the kitchen, so that we just used to walk miles and miles and miles. That's where we get our exercise. Sandringham we love because it's a smaller kitchen, it's right next to the dining room. But the royal tours, that's when it used to be fun. So we'd send food out to Britannia and then cook on there. But some of the more difficult ones were things like when we'd go to Nepal, to Kathmandu with the Queen, there trying to get the most amazing ingredients in a country like Nepal. That was tough. So that was a real challenge for the chefs.
And talking of Windsor Castle, isn't there a funny dessert story, I believe, involving a souffle?
Yeah, that's right. We got 20 chefs in the kitchen, and most of the chefs would rotate through the different departments. So it's not like a hotel where you just sort of work one section. You're a larder chef, you're a kitchen chef, you're a sauce chef, you're a pastry chef. And the reason being is because of those 20 chefs, when, say, the Queen went to Windsor for the weekend, we'd send one chef with an assistant or two, and the chef had to know all the different sections. So if you sent a weaker chef on pastry, that didn't know the pastry well, we'd always put something easy on the menu, like the chocolate perfection pie that we put on your website, so that we could make it ahead, send it out there, and the kitchen chef had no problem. Now, one time we were sending a chef out to Windsor, and his pastry wasn't good at all. He'd not been with us long, and so we put on two easy dishes, but the Queen decided to put a line through both and said chocolate souffle. And we were horrified, and he was so nervous. He'd never cooked a souffle. We had him in the kitchen practicing and making them. On the night he came to make the chocolate souffle, the page called down and said, "Royal dinner, please." He opened the oven, and the souffle had not even risen 1 inch out of the dish. So he thought, I know just what to do. He lifted the souffle out and then dropped it on the floor. And everybody looked horrified, and he said, "Oh, that was hot. My bad. Can you tell Her Majesty it's ice cream for dinner tonight, please?"
How did she react about the ice cream?
Oh, they love stories like that. Anything that goes wrong like that, they love it. Can you believe the chef dropped the ice cream, dropped the souffle?
Amazing. Right, thank you all so much for joining us on Facebook Live. I'm Talia Varga from the Mail Online office in London, and I've been joined by the former royal chef, Darren McGrady. You can continue the conversation by liking, sharing and commenting on this video, and check back on the mailonline.co.uk for more stories like this. Thank you very much.